G'day, Damned here again, and today the question that was asked was how do we have a skill list and we roll when we do the roles from the skill list, how do we send the skill name to the role without having to create a separate role for each specific skill? So we don't have a role for tracking and a role for negotiation. So we've got a role previously for attack, we want one for skills. So let's have a look at how we do that. Just go over the character sheet and see what we've got here. So we've got the skill name, we've got a skill value, a skill level, and a total skill. And this is just a mock-up mechanic. So skill value times skill level equals your ultimate skill. And when you adjust one of these skills, or one of these values here, so we change 1 to 2, this went to 36, change it to 3, it's gone to 54. So these values this value here dynamically changes as these values are altered. And we've got the add item and edit list buttons. So if we add another item here and we add our skill here, survival, and you've got 20 in here and 1 rank level. So you can see a bit of debugs happening over here. That's because, again, we've left the debug in. And we've also got the edit list button, so click this once to activate. Now this is a quick and dirty, so the delete item appears over the top of an existing field. So if I want to get rid of the survival skill, click it once and then you click it again to confirm the deletion and it's gone. Click the plus to add it back in. Okay, and let's do a roll. So while we're in the editing session, let's do a roll on the tracking skill. And we can see we've rolled 83, skill check fail, 83 versus 44. So you can see we've added a little bit of extra description in here over the attack roll. Let's do a couple more rolls. 55, there we go, we've got a critical fail. So again 55, because it's divisible by 5 cleanly, it becomes a critical, and in this case it's a critical fail. So let's go check out the code. So we've got our car sheet main and we've got our manager roles. So today we're going to add in skill detail, and skill detail is our window. So window is called skill detail. We can see it's just 30 high, it's 240 wide, and it's got a small number of elements in here. We've got name, which is just a string field, nothing special about that one at all. Then we have skill base, and it's just a number field, and it's called skill base, but we've got some code here. So on value changed, we're going to get the value, or we're going to get this entry. Now this entry, I've called this node car, and strictly this should actually be maybe node skill, because it doesn't actually return the character sheet, it returns the actual skill when we do this window.getDatabase node. And really we do want it to return that, because we're going to get values from the other elements in here. So okay, so we've got node skills. So what we've got in here is when this value is changed, it's going to get the value of this field, it's going to get the value of this field and multiply them, then it's going to get the value of this field, ignore the button for the moment, this final field, which is skill, and it's going to add the value in there. And I've just got some debugs in here just to see what's going on as we do it. Let's copy all of that, and we pretty much need exactly the same code in the second box, even though the values in here are going to be somewhat different. Our math is using this field and this field, and the math calculates every time either of these fields changes. So on value changed is the correct skill. And then we've got our skill box, no special code here, but it is a rollable field. So dice roll string is 1d100. Result handler, manager roles.skill. So we have to make a function called skill in our manager roles file. And then we've got our role description. So this is where we can send the name of the skill to our description. So we use our curly braces, name, which is this value. So whatever is in here is going to be sent with our skill role, and it's going to be called survival skill check or climbing skill check. And we also want to send one more thing. We want to send the skill score, which is here. It's actually called curly brace skill, and we're going to send it as a value in our R role. So R role is going to have R role.skill score, and it's going to equal the skill value that's in there. So that's this, and we can remember this is 240 pixels wide. If we go and look at our car sheet, what we've got here is I've got an icon at the back, icon control, field light, and that basically just creates ground for this content. So we've just got this frame here, just like we had a frame here for our attributes or stats at the top of the page. And then we've got in here, we have a window list, which is this control here, window list, and that allows us to have a dynamic list of objects in there. Dynamic as in we can add and subtract entries into this, and our entries here are skills. So this is going to use the class name skill detail, which is what we've just created over here. We've created a window called skill detail. So this is going to display multiple entries of skill detail. It's going to store the data in a data source called skill list, and that should start with a full stop. So full stop skill list. Column definition, yes, 235 pixels. Okay, we've got a slight mismatch here. This column width is 235, but my window class is 240. So I'm going to have to fix or tweak something there for the moment. And I've set the fill width to true because I want it to go 1, 2, 3, 4, rather than going all the way down the page and then across. I want it to go left and right. It will accept drag and drop classes, so it'll accept skill detail being dropped into there. We've got nowhere to drop it from at the moment, but that is being built in there. And we want to allow create, we want to allow delete. I have to add these in here. So we're adding a script. Let's go and check this one out. The best way to do this is up here. There should be some ellipses on the custom properties. So our script is file, common scripts, list, text, Lua, and this is a core RPG script that's designed to facilitate how the lists work. There's a video by Psychedelics showing how to do this. Otherwise, you'll be able to see it in the project file when you download that. We also, when you create a new entry in here, in this list, when you create a new entry, we want the focus, the mouse focus, to shift to the name field of our skill detail. So our skill detail starts with a name and then some number fields. So when you create one, the focus of the mouse will, or the pointer will move to the name field of the new entry. That's those two. And our skill list has a name, skill_list. We've got some tricky things here now, and they are these two buttons, and there's a third button we'll come back to. So this button here is 20 pixels by 20 pixels. We apply the template button_I_add. We had some custom properties, and the custom property is property name target, property value skill list. So it's telling us that this button's actions are related to this skill list. And this is important. We also have to give the name of this object. It starts with our window list and then _I_add, and that's to do with the scripts that run when this is clicked. We have something similar here for the button I_edit. You can see it's got target is skill list, so it's again referring to this window list. And this button I_edit template associates some scripts. Now we don't see those scripts, they're all in Core RPG, but you can go and have a look at those if you want to by searching in Core RPG for button_I_edit and finding its template. Now, the third button I mentioned is back here in our skill detail. That's the one I told you to ignore earlier, and this is the button I delete. Now, this one's name doesn't have the window list name in it. So instead of being skill underscore list underscore I delete, this one is just called I delete, and the name is important because the scripts that run when these buttons are pressed look for this particular button name. Okay. Let's have a look at, so on this field here, when we roll, we're rolling 1D100 and we're sending it to manager_roles.skill, and we're sending this role description, so survival skill check or climbing skill check or reading skill check, and we're also sending the skill score. So let's go to our script file. Created a new script, and I started, because our mechanic is very, very similar to the attack script, or the attack mechanic, I copied function attack down and I've called it function skill, but we had to make a few changes, so let's just go through them. I've got 3 debug statements. Now you know that they're not part of the live script, they're here just to help us see what's going on. Then we're declaring a new variable, skill score, and we're getting the value of the skill that was on the character sheet that was sent to us in our role. Let's go and have a look at where we see that. So in this particular role, our source, remember, is about the actor, which is our character called Hakim. We don't have any target, but our role contains most of the stuff we're looking for here. So we got a skill score here of 44, which was the score here in tracking. We've got a description, which is generated using the curly brace for skill. So it's called a tracking plus skill check. And we've also got the fact that it was a D100 that was rolled. The number that came up on the dice was 55, and we were trying to beat 44, so we failed because we're higher than that. And because we're at 55, it's also a critical fail. It's a critical fail, and then we've built a slightly longer text message here than we did for attack, and I'd probably go back and tweak attack to do something similar, but let's look at the rest of the script. Alright, so skill score was sent in the R role, and I've debugged it as we saw when we just went and looked at the chat. Now the result is again coming from our R role output, and again remember we're throwing a single set of percentile dice, so that's a dice 1, the first one that's landing, and we're getting the result. And then we also have a string. We're declaring a blank variable. This one's a string, and we're going to populate that string based on the results of our roll compared to our target score. So if the result on the dice is is greater than our skill score, then we have a fail. This is just debug message. It'll not be present in a final output. And then we're using our modulo, so we're dividing our dice result by 5, and we're checking to see what's left over. So 55 divided by 5 comes out to 11 clean, so there's nothing left over, which would mean that we would have a critical fail. So critical fail, the dots here append values, so we've got an open quote mark to start our text, open quote, open bracket, then our result, which was we rolled a 55, versus our skill score, which this particular skill was 44, and then the close bracket. So we're saving that in S result. Alternatively, if we'd rolled 54 instead, or 56, we would have a slightly shorter message. We don't have the critical element. And of course, if our roll was lower than our skill score, then we haven't had to specify lower than our skill score, because anything other than this result is going to execute this part of the script. So we have a success, and again we're testing the modulo. We're calling it a critical. If it's not a critical, we're just calling it a success. Another debug command, then we're setting up a message again. So our message, we're going to run some core RPG script actions manager.create action message. Action message knows to use our source and our role because it wants to get the actor's name, wants to get their icon if they're a player, and then it's getting some information from the role. We're going to simply modify the text element of this generated message, and we're going to keep what was generated by Core RPG, and we're going to append our result. So our result that we're appending was critical fail 55 versus 44, and then we're going to deliver the chat message. So let's go and have a couple more looks at it in action. Let's roll this one. Rolling negotiation. 84, fail pretty much every day of the week. So we've got negotiation, skill check, fail, and it was an 84 versus a 54. Here we have a 10, and 10 is lower than our skill score of 54, so we've got the success, and because 10 is cleanly divisible by 5, we have a critical success. So that's how we are setting that one up. Probably when you did this, you'd also put some labels in here, name, base, level, skill, and you would repeat those across here so that people would know exactly what they've got here. We can add extra skills. We can delete the skills. Now, we would probably normally also add a link in here and define the window that opens up when you click the link. But we're not going to do that in this lesson. That's it for today. Have fun.